this video, I'm going to weigh in on my thoughts on PSA entering the comic book grading scene and why personally you couldn't pay me, quite literally, they tried to pay me to have my books graded by PSA, at least not at this time. And we're going to break down all of the reasons why. But first, I think it's important to paint the current picture and a framework for how to view this conversation. Why we need a new grading company. What are the current problems? So personally, the way I see it is we have CGC and CBCS, and I'll just do this as quick as possible. I think people have a lot of problems with CGC, myself included. I mean, I am not a CGC fanboy by any means. I have dozens of videos on my YouTube channel showing how they've screwed me over, how they've screwed other people over. I mean, you name it. If you've been in the comic community for the last couple years, it's just scandal after scandal after scandal, controversy after controversy. And granted, people are looking for those controversies to get, clickbait type videos and get engagement on social media. But there's also very, very valid reasons for tons of controversies we've seen out of CGC. So I can confidently say that myself included, many people want a better option than CGC. So here, let's talk about CBCS. As all of the possible problems we could talk about with CBCS, because they're not without controversy either, the main thing that people don't like about CBCS is that the resale value is not as much as CGC. In spite of all of the controversy, every time a new controversy comes out, and sometimes it'll be really, really bad, like Bendgate, like they're damaging books inside of the cases, you think, oh, this is it. Here's the time when CBCS takes over as the leader in grading comics. But no. It doesn't happen. The community has spoken. They still want CGC. In spite of all of the problems that they've had, it demands a premium over CBCS. So the main problem that people have with CBCS is it doesn't sell for as much, and it's undeniable. You can go look at sold listings and see that consistently, on average, CBCS sells for about 20% less than CGC. And the other grading companies, in my opinion, they aren't even part of the conversation. If you're doing this for any reason with investment purposes or resale value, PGX, EGS, and any other three-letter symbol company you can think of isn't even in the conversation, in my opinion. People want a company like CGC that has the same resale value without the controversy. That's what we're all looking for. And in my opinion, CBCS offers that, except the only thing is it doesn't sell for as much. So in addition to that, it needs to have the same resale value as CGC. And this is where I think that personally, I don't see any company taking over CGC for that reason. If a company like CBCS can't do it, why would a new company be able to do it? How are they going to overcome all the obstacles that CBCS hasn't been able to do? But let's talk about this new company, PSA, because I think the slippery slope and the logical fallacy that a lot of people are making is we want a better company than CGC. Here's a new company. Therefore, the new company will be better than CGC. And I think that that is just completely illogical. They're going to have to prove themselves. They're going to have to show that they can overcome all of the problems that CGC has had. And I just want to talk about my initial impression with PSA, something that I just can't get past, and that is their prototype launch into this community. So they came out with, I don't know how long ago now, but their prototype slab. When they came on the scene and said, they came out with a prototype and said, PSA is now going to grade comics. Here's our prototype slab. And it was the wrong size. And to me, I just think that that is such a blatant oversight of something so basic. To me, it says that they're not taking this seriously, and that whoever is behind the decision-making process is flying by the seat of their pants and doesn't even have a good understanding of this community. We are a community of largely obsessive, compulsive, minute, detail-oriented people. We're very, very picky on details. I mean, we differentiate the difference between a 9.6 and a 9.8, which might be a tiny, tiny little spine tick. That could be the difference of thousands of dollars. We care about details. So if you're a company that's going to try to break into a grading community and your prototype slab is the wrong size, meaning it's not going to work with any of our collecting materials, slab bags, slab boxes, slab stands, display cases, you name it, none of it will work with the new slab because it's the wrong size. we're not even talking about the most important part yet, which is grading standards, their actual service. Right now, we're talking about the most basic thing, which is the size of the case, which was wrong. We're not even talking about the label, which everyone hated about PSA. So I know that they're going to fix the size of the slab, that it will be industry standard. My point is that if you're going to put your best foot forward and just throw a product out there that doesn't fix any of the problems that we're seeing, it's a terrible label, it's the wrong size, and we know nothing about the grading, that is the wrong first impression to make. And to me, it means that they're not taking it seriously and that they're not going to be able to meet the demands of this very demanding community. So that's something that I just can't get past. And then PSA reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to do a partnership opportunity? To which I declined. I don't do paid partnerships. It just doesn't make any sense for me. In my experience, they offer like $500 to $1,000 to do a video, and they have like a non-disclosure agreement, and you have to send them the video beforehand, and they give you notes, and you have to say what they want you to say. And there's just no possible way that I'm going to sell my integrity or my ability to speak freely for $500 to $1,000. So that was a quick turn down for me. It's like, no, I don't want to do a paid partnership. And they said, we completely understand and respect that, but let's still meet. We'd like to meet to see how we could possibly partner in other ways. I said, you know what? I'll take the meeting. I highly doubt, I just can't think of any possible reason why I would switch from CGC to a new company, but I'll take the meeting and hear you guys out. Well, the meeting never happened. I don't know if I missed the meeting or if they missed the meeting, but a couple weeks later, they said, I know we missed the meeting. And so sorry about that, but we'd like to offer to grade some comic books for you for free. To which I said, you know what? It's a pass. I wouldn't grade with PSA even if it was free. And the reason is from purely a business standpoint. There's an overwhelming number of risks and little to no possible payoff. In my opinion, the best case scenario for PSA is that it gets the same price as CGC. I mean, if they were to come out the gate and get a premium on their graded products over CGC, I think that would be an anomaly. Maybe you can chalk it up to novelty, something new, but I would think it would be a flash in the pan. I don't think that they're going to come out the gate consistently getting the same price as CGC. So in my opinion, the best case scenario is the same price. So the best case scenario, I save, $20 or $30 on grading to grade my comics with them if they did it for free and get the same price. So I'm up $20 or $30. The more likely scenario is that the books will be less desirable, that they will be worth less. And so now maybe my $200 or $300 book is worth $100 less. So even if it was graded for free, I'm still a net negative, which is why I just can't think of any reason to use any company other than CGC from a financial standpoint, right? If you want to have a novelty of the new thing. I mean, let's be honest, we're collectors. We collect cool things. And if you think that the new PSA slab is cool or you want to have one of the first ones, by all means, grade your books with them. But if you're been waiting to grade your entire collection or something because you have a bone to pick with CGC and you're thinking about sending your entire collection into PSA to be graded out the gate, I think you are incredibly foolish from a financial standpoint. I think that is a massive risk. We need to see how this is going to shake out over time, how the values are going to happen over time. So next I want to talk about as far as my impression of PSA so far. If you're out the gate with a bad impression of the wrong size slab, now they're announcing that they're going to have different grading standards, which we'll see how this shakes out. That maybe it results in a niche that they can fill or something. But in my opinion, and just so you know, if you haven't heard, they're going to have the regular grades up to a 9.8. They're going to skip the 9.9 and just have 9.8, and then it skips to a 10. I think this presents a lot of potential problems for PSA, and the number one being that it is incredibly difficult to get a 10.0 in a comic book. It is so much different than cards. Cards has one surface, right? It's one card, there's a front and there's a back and there's the edges. Comic books typically have 32 pages and staples and all kinds of other problems that can possibly go wrong. So in the manufacturing process, just coming off of the press, it creates bindery tears at the top and the bottom, which means that the book is not perfect, right? That the vast majority coming off the presses are not perfect. So I think if you get rid of the 9.9, you're either going to have very, 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 very few 10.0s like you do with CGC, or you're going to have 10.0s with flaws. And if they come out with 10.0s, gem mint perfect with a small spine tick or a small bindery tear or something, to me that is like a nail in the coffin, that this company is just completely bogus. Like, you cannot have something that's perfect that has flaws, and comic books are very, very difficult to get without flaws. Update. Here we have the new grading standards for comic books that PSA just dropped on their website, and we see that a Gem Mint PSA 10 is a truly remarkable book that is virtually perfect. Virtually perfect, folks. That means that they're going to grade things as a 10 with flaws. Otherwise, it wouldn't say virtually perfect, it would say perfect. Now, what this means to me is not only do they not have a good understanding of what collectors want from a grading company, but they also don't have a good understanding of the English language. Things that are perfect cannot have flaws. This, to me, is so embarrassing as a company that they're going to come out with official definitions of their grade with a basic flaw of the English language. Things that are perfect cannot have flaws. This is why we have the 9.9. This is why the 9.9 grade exists. It's for a book that is virtually perfect, but it has a tiny little thing, so it's not perfect. Therefore, we give it a 9.9. I mean, every other grading company understands that something that is perfect cannot have a flaw. To me, this just means that they can't be taken seriously, and they certainly aren't going to make a name for themselves with definitions like this. They're not going to be a trusted standard in the community when they can't even understand the basic tenets of English. But not only that, if we go and look at all of these grading standards here, I just want to bring something else up that struck me when I look at all of this. We've got distributor overspray, distributor ink, color break, tape, married pages, all of this stuff about restoration and conservation check. There is so much nuance in comic book grading. There is so much that can happen. And when you send a very valuable comic book to be graded by someone, not only do you want them to be trustworthy, which they're going to have to prove themselves to be trustworthy, and CGC hasn't done a whole lot to instill faith in people to send collectibles. I know a lot of people that are like, I would never send something to CGC because I don't trust it, right? Even more so with a brand new company off in the scene. But for restoration check, I mean, CGC has caught stuff that I, with my naked eye, was not able to see. And I just, don't trust myself in checking restoration for like a super valuable book, like if an AF-15 came through or something like that. If you are a buyer of a PSA book and you bought a very valuable vintage comic from PSA, I think you're taking a huge risk that you're just trusting that they have this restoration thing nailed down. I mean, there's so much nuance to it, and I find it hard to believe, and maybe they do. Maybe they are restoration experts, but I just have so many doubts that they will have enough trained staff to be able to do an accurate restoration check. Now, I think we'll probably see stuff come out in the future with crossover like horror stories for PSA, just like we have with other grading companies, that they bought it as a PSA non-restored book, like a TOS 39 first appearance of Iron Man, and they crossed it over to CGC because they got a great deal on it because it was PSA and it was 40% off the retail value. And then they crossed it over and it came back from CGC restored. I just think that this company has a long way to go to get any kind of faith from the community. And here is how the PSA 10 is going to play out. If they pump out a bunch of books with minor flaws as PSA 10s, it's just not going to have that much of a premium. It's going to be a novelty premium. And it's just, again, not going to go toe-to-toe with CGC. And maybe that is their whole point here. Maybe they don't want to go toe-to-toe. Maybe they realize we're not going to take them over. Let's fill a niche with modern stuff. Maybe we can get a bunch of people to submit a bunch of their modern books to us, because we can blind them by desire to think that all their books are going to get PSA 10s because PSA grades easier. And guess what? Maybe people will do it. We'll see how this plays out in the aftermarket. And let's just talk about the book in the thumbnail for this video, Spider-Man #1 in a 10. It's an incredibly valuable book. It's a one of the most printed books in history from 1990. Classic Todd McFarlane cover. In fact, it's one of the giveaways here at Bryce Comics. So I'm giving away a silver copy and a regular copy. Here on the YouTube channel, we do a monthly giveaway. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win a 9.8 CGC Todd McFarlane Spidey and a Dell Auto. And also, while we're on the subject, if you head over to brycecomics.com and sign up for the newsletter over there, you're entered to win this Todd McFarlane Spidey and a 9.8 and a Dell Auto over there as well. This is where you'll get first access to new collections, is through that newsletter. Tons of new stuff coming. By the time you're watching this video, I'll have dropped a whole new 50 key issue slabs, and there's a bunch of stuff coming, a bunch of Jim Lee signature series. Anyways, my point was that a 10.0 in that particular book is incredibly rare, okay? And so the fact that they're advertising with it is like, how did you get a 10.0 of that book right off the bat, right? The last sale was $5,459 for a CGC 10 of that Spider-Man one. It sold one time in the last 12 years. That's how rare it is. It just doesn't come up for sale. The one sale was 2022. The next one was 2013. And just for reference here, there's only 13 copies of this book graded at a 10. 13 out of a potential 14,000 on the census. I just don't think that they're putting out anything to suggest that they can fix the problems that CGC has. And the main reason why I don't think any company will overtake CGC is because I think the problems that CGC has is because of scale and humans. I don't think that the problems with CGC, with the controversies, with the bent inner wells, I don't think it has to do with malfeasance. I don't think it has to do with like mismanagement or like evil intent or anything. I think the problems are just that when you have humans running a company and you scale up, there's quality control issues and all of the things that happen with human nature. And there's just no reason to think that PSA is going to be able to not have human problems if they scale up to the size that CGC is. Sometimes you hear complaints coming out of CGC like their grading standards are inconsistent. Imagine if PSA scales, has success, and has to go hire a whole slew of new comic book graders to grade comics. I mean, it's going to be a shit show. How could they possibly find enough qualified people to do it when the company that's been doing it for 20 years is struggling? I just don't think there's any logical reason to think that they're going to be able to overcome the problems that CGC's had. All right, so now I'll make my predictions about how this is all going to shake out. It doesn't matter. I have no like desire to be right. It doesn't even matter what I think. The only thing that matters is how it plays out over time, how the resale value of these books are, what the customer service is like, what the grading standard is like, what the response of the community. So it doesn't matter what anyone predicts is going to happen, but I'll throw it out there just because it's kind of fun. I think there will be novelty at first. I think that, you know, you might be able to have some success with PSA by riding the coattails of the novelty thing, but I think there's a ton of risk with that. I think that you have the potential to take a big fat loss depending on what type of books you grade. I think long term, it'll be similar to CBCS. I think that like Hulk 181 graded by PSA will have a similar, you know, hit in value, especially in high grades. I think if you have a 9.8 PSA Hulk 181, I think it'll get this about the same as what a CBCS does, which is a lot less than a CGC 9.8. When you get to those bigger dollar amounts and more expensive books, that's when the gap is even bigger in resale value. To wrap things up, I am rooting for PSA. I hope that they overcome all of the odds and that they are able to have the same resale value as CGC and that they're able to scale the business with normal human beings without seeing a compromise in quality control, grading standards, and without seeing any controversies or slip-ups. I'm rooting for them that happens. And if they do, I will be the first to jump ship from CGC to PSA. In fact, to any company for that matter. I'm just a dealer that gives the people what they want. And right now, they want CGC. I don't like CGC, and I will gladly switch, and I hope there's a better option in the future. But as of right now, as far as running a business, I mean, it's smooth sailing to the point where I can absolutely run a business selling CGC's product. You know, like the turn times are reasonable. They're not great. Like I have a bunch of stuff sitting in the vintage share that's been there for months. Do I like that? Hell no. I'm waiting on a video to drop that's going to because it's a very interesting thing about this particular submission is all held up because I'm waiting. But do I want them to go hire a bunch of new people to grade vintage comic books according to really strange standards? Hell no. I want that book to be graded correctly. So I'm willing to wait, rather than like pushing for the alternative, which is hire someone off the street to grade my books. No thanks. But as far as like their shipping now, they've made massive improvements with shipping. There's there's hardly ever any problems with, damages from shipping. When they do damage a book in the encapsulation process or whatever, they're quick to fix it. Like, as far as a business standpoint, it's pretty much smooth sailing with CGC. So anyways, I've rambled long enough. I am anxious to hear your comments down below. I'm sure you will let me know how you feel about this whole situation. Let's remember that this is a hobby. It's supposed to bring us joy. So don't let anything get in the way of your joy of collecting comics, especially a grading company. If you're bent out of shape or turned off about, just change your perspective. All right, get back to the fact that it's comics. It's comics that we're in this for: the stories, the art, the history, the rich community that we have in this hobby. So let's not let grading companies get in between us or put us at odds with each other. Let's respectfully disagree if we have to disagree, but do let me know what you think about everything I've said in this video down below.